went back in the house and we caught up an argument. I fired the gun and fired it into the wardrobe. And then there's a knock at my door. And I thought it was a neighbour at first. But then when I got to the door, the man that was there, didn't recognise him, said, "Are you Michael Groce?" And instantly I knew it was police. And then I just put all of it. It was like literally a split second, really, or maybe 2-3 seconds. Everything all happened. As soon as he said it, I knew it was connected to whatever it was. I just got released. I ain't really been at that long. And I thought, I can't be caught in this position, and madly, really. I tried to close the door, and then he didn't close the door. So I just stuck it on him, put the gun in his mouth. And it was just a natural. I have no idea why I did that. It was a natural thing I did. I just reacted, stuck the gun in his mouth, sent him on his way, and then I actually cleaned the gun down, left it there, made my escape. Where I was hiding, people knew my family. And there was a knock at the door to inform someone to tell them that my mum had been shot. It was my stepsister I was at, right? So the person knew that the stepsister was my mum, Cherry Groce. So they came to the house to say to my sister, "Your mum's been shot. It's all on the TV." And I said to this woman, "You must have made a mistake. My mum ain't been shot." I thought, that she's been shot. That would be on TV now. Lo and behold, I turned the TV on, and there it was. Picture of my grandmother standing outside my mum's house, making an appeal. And that was shocking to see that. Oh my days. Larry Love, the lead singer of Alabama 3, goes, "Michael Groce, I think you should come in this band we're putting together. It's called The Cunts." I was like, "What? What are you on about?" He was like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "You got the miserable cunt, you got the Welsh cunt, you got the old cunt, and we want you to be the black cunt." And I was like, and so my intro would be like, "Sticks and bones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." And then I'll do my set, you know? And then when they finish, they're like, "Oh, the black cunt. Oh!" I'm like, "Yeah."
Hi everyone, you're very welcome to this week's episode of Parallel Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe and click the notifications bell so you don't miss any videos and updates. If you're listening audio only on Podbean or Spotify, please click follow so again you'll be notified when a new episode goes live. You might also check out my personal vlogging channel, Pitch Spotting with Padraig. I did 2 good vlogs during the week at Hibs Hearts and Celtic Rangers in Scotland, and lots more to come in the future, so don't miss out. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Mikey Ross, a man with a very interesting story. He's best known as the man who inadvertently started the Brixton Riots in 1985. Since then, he has become a poet, author, filmmaker, motivational speaker, and community activist, and has played a key role in building relations with the police in Brixton and in Lambeth and the South London area. And he's very kindly agreed to come on this evening to tell his story. Michael, first and foremost, thanks a million for coming on the show this evening. It's much appreciated.
Cheers. Glad to be here.
I first saw you on James English last year, Michael, and I remember coming away from that interview with a huge respect for you, telling your story and how you've come through and how you managed to turn your life around and how you're beginning to make a difference to people's lives as well. So we're going to go into a bit of detail on that in the show this evening. You mentioned as well in the interview that you have a soft spot for Irish people. So I felt comfortable popping you the message on Instagram, and thankfully you got back and here we are. And you mentioned you like Jaffa cakes as well in that interview, so I figured the fireside chat.
Yeah, yeah. So I do love a Jaffa cake. Yeah, it's one of my vices, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so I reckon the fireside chat will be right up your alleyway. Mm-hmm. So before we start, Michael, just cheers and good health. I wish you all the best for 2022.
Cheers. I've got my juice here, so cheers, but
Very good. Very good. Just, I suppose, to maybe give a bit of background to people who don't know you, Michael. Could you maybe just tell us what it was like for you growing up?
Oh yeah, well, it's always an interesting question, that, because I kind of had this varied upbringing. So it's almost like going in stages. So I call my pre-children's home. I grew up in Brixton, Dalberg Road, which is right behind the front line itself. So I was right in the heart of Brixton growing up, which was pretty tough. It was a tough neighborhood, filled with mainly blacks, Irish, and so I said to I get
dogs as well, I bet, is it?
Yeah, and it was really tough, and I'm not just saying it was tough for me. It was tough for everybody. It was really a tough time economically. So everybody had to do what you got to do to survive. So my mum, by the time she was 18, she had 3 kids. There's 3 of us living with her in Dalberg Road, trying to survive. And before I knew about it, I was, mixed up in the local activities. But I was doing all sorts of things. I used to like work at the markets, work on the rag and bone man, work on the paraffin man trucks, and just trying to earn money, graft, and get what to do. So I went away as a boy, and I got arrested, and it was decided that I would be on my mother's care. So I was put in care for a little while, but I was still visiting. And so up to that point, I would say that it was pretty chaotic. It was traveling between countryside and coming to school in the countryside and coming back to London on holidays. And I lived like that for a couple of years. But it was challenging, because I felt in the days when I was younger, I saw racism differently in London than what I did when I came out of London. In London, you have a different type of racism. If you stick to your area, which was my area, was Brixton, you don't quite see it. I just saw Brixton, everybody liked me, everybody knew me, and sort of thing, and that was it. It's only when I went to the countryside, I really understood racism in another way. And so that brought out all different things of me to how to survive. And so, yeah, some of those lessons I had to learn were pretty tough, pretty hard on me. Some of them I had to be pretty tough to get through that. But, I managed to get through. And I think I was just what you call an average young kid growing up in London, between children's and things like that. Like any other teenage kid getting in trouble. I lived in Reading for a little while. They banned me from London. So I came back when I was 15. I survived in London for about 9 months through grafting. Next thing I got banned from London. They sent me to Reading. I lived in Reading for 3 years. Then I got banned in Reading. And so everywhere I was going, I was just constantly, as you can tell, getting myself in trouble. Don't know how I managed it, but I had that kind of temperament, seemed to find it and get myself in trouble. And then I came back to London. In between, I did Borstalls in DC and YC. And I think I did my first adult prison sentence when I was just 20. Instead of sending me to YC, they sent me to an adult prison. So I ended up going to Scrubs in Wandsworth. And that led me to come out just in about a place called Northfire. Northfire had a riot just as I left, which was really weird. And then I came out from Northfire, and I think I was out about 6 months. And of course, I got in trouble again, carrying guns, got in trouble, had a domestic argument with my girlfriend, fired a shot in the wardrobe, showing off. And of course, that led to the police coming to my house. I put the gun in the police officer's mouth. And from then, it just led to the riots, really. And that's kind of like my life up to that point, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm nearly 60 now. It sounds a lot happening in the first 21 years, but that was where it led up to.
We could just maybe talk about the situation for how you ended up putting the gun in the policeman's mouth that day. How did that come about?
Well, it really stemmed from the fact that a friend of mine was identified as being in a robbery. A lot of us was put under observation, and I was one of those people. I was at my house. My funny thing is, I just found out the night before about the guy. I'm not going to give his name, so I found out about the guy the night before. And when I went home, I had an argument with my partner. It's kicked me out, really. And as I was going down the stairs, I thought, I'm not going. I can't leave under this situation. So I went back in the house, and we caught up an argument. I fired the gun, and fired it into the wardrobe. Really, I always told people I was what you call putting my big hat on, showing off, and not really understand what's going on. And then there's a knock at my door, and I thought it was a neighbour at first. But then when I got to the door, the man that was there didn't recognise him, said, "Are you Michael Groce?" And instantly I knew it was police. And then I just put all of it. It was like literally a split second, really, or maybe 2-3 seconds. Everything all happened. As soon as he said it, I knew it was connected to whatever it was. I just got released. I ain't really been like that long. And I thought I can't be caught in this position, and madly, really. I tried to close the door, and then he didn't close the door. So I just stuck it on him, put the gun in his mouth, and it was just a natural. I have no idea why I did that. It was a natural thing I did. I just reacted, stuck the gun in his mouth, sent him on his way, and then I actually cleaned the gun down, left it there, made my escape. And so that's what led to me being on the run for 3 days. But within that time, I was trying to hand myself in, really, find a barrister, get myself sorted. And I knew I was facing something, I just didn't know what. And then, of course, finally, it was arranged that I could hand myself in. I think I did that on a Sunday. I was in court by Monday, and then that was it, really. The riots had all kicked in place, and my mum was being shot. So, yeah. I mean, that part of when people used to hear about my mum shooting, for years, no one knew how it all started, really. They all said, oh, what happened to mum was wrong. And I think one of the things I had to address when I decided that I'm going to do with my, what you might call, you probably hear that one, how I'm going to deal with my, me coming forward, right? I had to kind of address that situation first, right? Because I think there was this slight deflated theory of what really happened, and me being this innocent guy. And I think it needed to be accepted, especially for me, that I had a role to play in that, if that makes sense. I'm not saying I'm taken on board, the police, I'm letting off. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is I'm recognizing my behavior and what I played in the role of that, and I have to embrace that. And so I had to come forward with it, so people have a much more balanced argument. And now I think they do have a much more balanced argument, because when I've spent time to myself, now listen, man, this is what I did. What do you think they're going to do to me when they come after me? You know? And I mean, it's funny when you're the James English interview. There was a comment. Someone read some of the comments, and someone said, "I should have warned his mum." I actually did warn my mum. My family was warned that I was on the run. They've always been warned. I've never really put them in trouble. I've always been honest with my family. This is another key again. It's about being honest with what you are, what your friends are, who your family is, what they know about you, right? So it's not like I go around committing crime and my mum didn't know my family. No, they knew. There's nothing they could have done, so they accepted it, right? But I have to take responsibility for my behaviour, and I've always been like that with my family. I never used to put it on them to come and visit me, none of that, because it's that's what I have to do when I go in, right? So that night, they all presumed, like I did, it's the usual thing. The police are going to knock my mum's door, ask if I'm there, and then so she'll say no, they can come in and search it, and boom, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. What happened was what did happen, and that was a totally different ballgame. Hence, that's why, she was caught out, really, because, again, none of us expected him to behave in that way. Because I think she did. She thought it was going to be gun. She would have cleared the house out. That makes sense. She would have said, "No, man, no one's going to be here until him get catch." That makes sense, because she would have presumed. But we all said, no, they're just going to, we agreed that I'm going to have myself in tomorrow. So we didn't think anybody was coming. That makes sense. And so, yeah.
Could you maybe explain what happened, how she got shot, just for someone who's not familiar with the story?
So, okay, the story's out there. My brother's written a book about it, but the main story is that they surrounded the house. There was quite a few police there, dogs. We know there was armed police there as well as support unit. They said there was a lot there. The whole house was surrounded. And instead of them, what we thought they would have done again was at that level do some type of communication megaphone. They surrounded and they jimmied the door, slightly got in, and then when they got in, a shot was fired. Now the shot was fired in a bedroom, which is on the ground floor by the front door. So if you come in the front door, you go straight into the first room. So which is what they did. They went straight into the first room. Saw my mum. Something happened. The bullet was fired, and it went into her shoulder. And it would have been a normal shot. It was a normal shot. Then what would have happened? It went through her shoulder and out straight. But this was it was rubbed down. It's a dum-dum bullet. So the bullet went in, then it went down, and it then lodged in her spine. So that's what the damage was caused. Under normal circumstances, it would have been a normal bullet. So to this day, we don't know why they had that bullet, but it went in and down. So we know they tried to do maximum damage on me, really. And of course, they pointed at my brother, screaming at people in the house. It was really chaotic. And at that time, after speaking to my mum, she said to me, no one knew actually for a split second she got hit. They just presumed it was actually the police thought it was a warning shot, which is an unusual thing anyway, until they realised that she had been hit. And that's when all hell broke loose. So.
And what was their justification for shooting her mother?
They don't give a justification. The justifications, I think they said they saw a movement. There was an heightened alert as well. So it's a very, there's two, I think you can go in 2 or 3 ways with the police. You can have the finger on the trigger or the finger off that trigger when you go into a scenario. And it gives them that's them giving you the opportunity. If they think you're not going to do nothing, but it's for show, it's normally off the finger. But if they're piped and ready, that's a light trigger with a light finger. And so I think, they've said they saw movement, but there was a lot of people in that room. It could have been anybody. There was kids in that room. My mum was in that room. So it was not like she was in there on her own. So I think if they were in there, for me, unprepared. And so really, they just said they raped. The final inquest was that really it was a badly organised raid in its full self, and everybody was put under a need unsafe from the moment it really happened. So that was really what they really got down to. So I don't know what they said really, because I've not really it's been a hard one for me, because when you talk about, and it's taken years for me to get to this position to even really talk about it, but when you talk about the riots and my mum, at that time, I was still blamed, right? So it was very hard to be, I couldn't go to none of the trials. I wasn't allowed to be part of none of the dialogue. I was literally a separate entity put over there. That makes sense. And I had to just sort of I was distant. And I was actually barred from my mother's house. I wasn't allowed to sleep there ever again. So for 35 years, that was all on my head as well. So that kind of anger and to face it made it difficult to get involved with it. But even though I spent the first 15, 10 years with her, really, sort of doing home help and helping her about and doing as much as I can do. I fell off the wagon a little bit. But yeah, it's one of those subjects I never really, I felt it difficult to have dialogue about it with people. Especially if I was put in the room with police or anybody like that. It ain't gonna go nowhere. I wasn't ready for that. So the only one I was ready for was to listen to what my mum was doing, how she felt, where she was going with this, in support of any choices she made. So I think her role can't be underestimated in her impact on me as a person, to a sense that, I faded away, got into crack cocaine. I was living completely alienated of what I was all about as a person. I accepted my fate of not deserving. And so I think that self-pity that I went through was a period I needed to go through, really. I didn't know it until I started with Restorative Justice. Actually, what I was going through was a normal procedure of what I had to go through, of grieving, really. Because she didn't die, she was alive, but she was dead, if that makes sense. I lost my mum, right? But the point being is, it was a delayed death. We're still watching her dying, And so sometimes it's very painful to watch that. And so there was that element as well. When I went to the hospital for the first time, they gave me bail. Well, I had to go to the hospital. I couldn't even look at my mum. They had to call me over to go and speak to her. That's how bad it was. I felt embarrassed that I brought that to her, right? And then, even though she was saying, "No, man, you're my son, I'll take this for you." It doesn't equate when you see them in the bed, right? Or she's going through pain and things like that. So it was a lot to take on board. But I can say watching her is even more to sort of say, this is what I'm going, imagine what she's going through as well. So it really put in perspective where my position was. I think that was the key there. And I was in a unique position because the woman that got shot is my mum. I'm now watching her as she goes through this, and she's showing a tremendous amount of courage and spirit,
absolutely,
and energy that I can only gain from that at a point. You know what I mean? Which finally I did. So yeah, it's a very difficult one. So, but I can talk about it now. I think we can talk about this now because over the years when I started my restorative, right, it was like I was saying, really important that we adjusted it. But more importantly, I wasn't doing restorative justice. She was, for me, she's the victim. So it's for her, my first restorative justice was all about, right? And so for me, it's really important that I gave her something to go hold on to before it was too late. And her seeing her son deteriorate like I wasn't a good look. Wasn't a good look for her. Wasn't a good look for anybody, really.
You weren't obviously in the house when the police came round. How did you find out about your mum being shot?
Where I was hiding, people knew my family, and there's a knock at the door to inform someone to tell them that my mum had been shot. It was my stepsister I was at, right? So the person knew that the stepsister was my mum, Cherry Groce. So they came to the house to say to my sister, "Your mum's been shot. It's all on the TV." And I said to this woman, "You must have made a mistake. My mum ain't been shot." When I closed the door, I was like, okay. It was a Saturday like today. So I thought, well, I'm going to have myself in and stay one more night. In the morning, I'm watching Match of the Day. So I thought, she's been shot. That would be on TV now. Lo and behold, I took the TV on, and there it was. Picture of my grandmother standing outside my mum's house, making an appeal. And that was shocking to see that. Oh my days.
You must have been absolutely gutted. I can only imagine what was going through your head when you saw that on the TV.
You know what? You go beyond the feeling. You enter a world of surreal. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I entered this world of surreal where it just didn't make sense, and I really, really lost it. And it took me. I had to walk around the street for 2-3 hours, just trying to get it in, trying to get more information, listen to what people were saying. During the night, that first night, trying to make my way to my family's house, but it was surrounded by police. Couldn't get near it. I was in the bush for an hour, across the street, watching my family's house. Thinking I wanted to go in, couldn't do it. And so they finally, when I spoke to Paul Bolton, my barrister at the time, he just said, "Look, go home. There's nothing you can do now. Just go where you're hiding, and we'll come and get you tomorrow." And that was the most difficult night I've ever been through. I didn't sleep, couldn't think, I was numb. But yeah, it was a weird one because when I was away, there was the shooting. There was a shooting of John Stonehouse when I was a little boy in Reading. He was one of the armed robbers. Got shot. His child got shot in the bed, looking for him. And I remember the whole prison was reading that and listening to that, and he was like, "What? If that happened to me, mate, I'll be killing all the police." And the thing is, when it did happen to me, I remember thinking, do I go out there and kill people? I'd say, I think if I had a gun, it might have been a really mad situation, but I didn't have a gun. And so all those thoughts was coming to your head. I'm going to kill something, kill someone, do something. And I was just tearing myself up. Like I'm saying, it was like my mum really was one that kind of like, for the first 5 years, I had revenge on that. I thought, after seeing her and being through it, I think that's part of that breakdown I went through. I really wanted revenge. I think that catalyst, that self-destructive spiral that I went down was part of that process of me not getting revenge the way I wanted to. So, yeah.
Just with the rest of your family, Michael, did you find it affected your relationship with them? Were you kind of a blame figure for them after it happened, or were they understanding?
Yeah, of course you are, because, but there was all that went on. And it just didn't go on. It went through the whole lot, from friends to family to acquaintances. It was always an underlying thing there, isn't it? And no matter how you speak about it, it always comes down to there was looking for me, right? So, yeah, it was a subject that was always, I had to broach a lot. And even when the night my mum died, some of my family members wanted to punch me in my mouth on the night she died. And I had to stand there in that circle of people, the hate, and take it. So I just thought, yeah, all right, cool. But yeah, I'm not blaming no one. I think everyone reacts to it in their own way, you know. But the two people who was really involved in it is the two catalysts of that. I think there's nothing much people could have done with that dynamic. And then it slightly changed after my mum died again. Some people again expressed a view, which didn't always run in line to what was happening. But what can you do? Like I say, everyone's entitled to opinion, right? So.
But it must have been very difficult for you carrying that guilt for so long.
I never felt guilty. What I felt guilty about is that I brought it to my mum. I had really known I'd signed that contract with the police to keep silent and agree, right? So yeah, carrying that burden and to carry something when you knew you actually wasn't wanted, because I wasn't wanted, right, at that time, right? They'd stood down. So at that point, there is no responsibility for me and my mum. That makes sense. But what pulled out of that is that behaviour then brought it back into the play again, doesn't it? And because no one knew the full story, that blame rested on my shoulder. Yeah, I carried it. So I wasn't about to tell the world, no, don't listen to them, they're liars. I just didn't care. I just thought, you know what, whether they blame me or not, I'm going to walk with it anyway. I think that was the only thing I could have done. And it's part of that game as well. You're going to come into the fire, you're going to get burnt as well, right? You're going to have to ride that. So it was difficult. But, you know, what can you do? So, yeah.
Look,
it's a difficult burden to carry. And it sometimes held me back. It held me back a lot because some people, when people want to stop something I'm doing or progress something I'm doing, they would fall to that. Well, you know, you are the one that started the riots. Or if I went for a job and I did well and I should be going further, they'd bring that, well, you know, you've got a criminal record. So it was a really big thing that played within my life. So again, that was something I had to press.
When you got sentenced when you handed yourself in after your mum got shot, did you get a reduced sentence in compensation for what happened to your mum, or was it?
Well, what they tried to do is make a deal with me, right? So the deal was that I accept the conditional discharge, and then they'll take it from there. I didn't want to accept that. I had to, but there was like barristers and my mum, just let's get this out of the way. So I just signed the agreement. So they gave me 3 years suspended sentence for that. I wish I wanted to do the bird, because I think if I'd done the bird, it would have been, I was in the possession of a gun, I should have been done for that problem. That's my argument, really. So just by seeing the whole lot, even offering me a deal, it just shows that this was beyond what we're looking for, justice sort of thing. So yeah.
One thing I kind of took from the James English interview was like her mother was a very grounded woman, very kind-natured woman, and she was very empathetic towards your situation, and she kind of didn't blame you anyway, which must have been a relief.
I think, yeah, she was. See, it's almost like there's two camps there. There was those that know the history of me and my family, my mum, so they understand it. They know that what it is, right? So, and then there's those that don't quite understand it, will then have this blame scenario. But with my mum, she accepted that. I think she said, what can I do? She said, from a boy, you've been doing what you're doing for this family. You understand? So it's we can't just turn around on you now because something's gone wrong, right? And this is what we've all got to learn. And she said, oh, you know, my time is my time and it is what it is. And so it was difficult for us to accept that she's accepting it. But once we realised she was really genuine and it fell in line with what her character was all about, it was something I understood. And so, yeah, it was. But again, it's almost, there's certain things, and I know there must be times she must have been mumbling under her breath about the situation, because I know I did sometimes, even though You know, there'll be moments when you get a bad day or bad mood swing, and it's sometimes things come up in you, right? So I know there must have been testing moments when she thought, my son, you know, but she never really showed that to me. And so, yeah, she was really, that's just where my work comes from. It's all based on her traits. If anyone thinks it's not, then you look at what I do and they'll tell you this is exactly what my mum was. Well, I'm just following on her legacy, what it's all about. You know, we don't judge you. I know people that's been inside for murder. I knew them before they did that crime, right? So because the word murder is there, doesn't mean I'm going to hate you, right? So I think that's the honesty. Sometimes we do bad things. Sometimes we do good things. Sometimes we do all right things. But what you are as a person, your circumstances also changes that as well. So, you know, she did something. We was like, she should say something like, when someone, say we saw domestic violence, we saw that a lot as a kid, right? In the 60s and 70s, yeah? Domestic violence was all part of our life, right? And then what my mum would say, if you see two people fighting, don't get involved. But she said, if you see two people fighting and you see kids, go and get the kids, right? If they want to fight, you let them fight because they're adult responsible, right? But if the kids are there and they're still fighting, it's gone too far, they're blind. Let's pick up the kids, move them out the way, right? And put them safe. So where I lived in Timworth, that was a great thing. There's a lot of domestic violence going on in the flat, you know, and so you'd see a kid or someone screaming, you'd run out there and grab that kid and bring him in your house. You know what I mean? While mum and dad and you try and keep them away from that, don't you? And make them feel comfortable. And people did it to us as well. We suffered domestic violence in my own home. And so there was times when we had to run out and take the kids out and people would come over and grab the kids and then we can then do what we got to do. So this domestic violence is a big circle of impacts and of ripple effects, who it affects, right? It's not just the two of your arguments. There's other things and kids that are involved. And so that empathy she showed to people was totally great. And that is a currency of kindness. I'm going to do a poem later on. It's called Mother gave me it's about 6 rules that my mum gave me. And one of the ones she spoke to me about was kindness and politeness, manners. It's a really important thing to have. It's free, right? And so she was a woman of great manners, great empathy. You could go to her. There was a man in my flats, right? Well-known gangster. Everybody was petrified of him. I came out from Boston. And my mum said, come and meet a brethren of mine. She took me to this place and he introduced himself and his name was Tommy, right? And I had no idea who this man was. He was really nice to me. He was nice to my mum. They had a laugh. They left. I walked down the road. I saw the man just about to say hello to me. My mates run. Because what's wrong with him? Quick. He's a nutcase. Well, nutcase. So mum, went back to mum. Mum, what are you doing with Tommy? The man's a nutcase. She goes, no, man. Tommy's great life. She goes, he couldn't read. So sometimes when he wants to put a bet on, he needed someone to write a bet for him. And he'd go to my mum to help him. And I thought, wow, just to know that this man, it exposed that limitations of himself to say, Jerry, you can't read enough, but could you help me out? I should help him out, write his letters for him, do all sorts of things. And I just thought, wow, that's taken. So I saw a different side to that man that others didn't see. And that told me that kindness is a real important element. And so I brought that with me in my play, you know, and I think she gave me this real bare honesty of what life is about. And I think, yeah, all those qualities you talk about, she did it. She had all of them and in abundance as well. So
you inherited some of that kindness, Michael, when we're helping other people in prison later on, which we'll come to in a while. Your mum Cherry came over from the Caribbean during the Windrush, is it?
Yeah, probably. No, yeah, part of the Windrush excursion, because sometimes I make it sound like it was a 1-year thing, and there's a whole load of it was a period of time that expanded when the Caribbean was coming over. Caribbean people was coming over and settling. So my grandmother was here first, and then my mum was called over. She was calling over the kids one by one. Then my mum got called over. So we've been 53, 50, 52, 53. She came over, something like that. So it's all part of the Windrush.
It was from Jamaica she came from, was it? Or was this?
Jamaica. A particular part of Jamaica is called Portland, which is where it's a maroon town, if that makes sense. So in Jamaica, you've got Africans that come from Guyana. and they're the ones that fought the war in Jamaica and got their own independence. And we got our own land, like the Vatican. We got our own space, our own rules. We're allowed to grow weed.
Like
we're a really well-known warrior state. And so my mum was very proud maroon.
Very good.
So yeah.
Did you spend much time with your dad, Michael, growing up? Did he play kind of a role in your life?
No, I didn't know my dad until I was about 15. I first met my dad. He tried to find me. When I speak to him, he tried to find me. But I didn't know my name because I've got my dad's name. My real name's my dad's name, but I'm also known by my mum's name as well, a married name. And so I didn't know my real name until I found out when I was in care. Kind of like hid that. And then one day my mum said that someone wants to see you. Knocked down the door and knocked. It was my dad. And so we started to get to know each other. And he's in my life now. I don't see him as much as I want to, but yeah, he's there. So good man.
So,
there's some opinion in him as well.
Did you feel kind of bad about being put into care, or did you feel kind of any grudge towards your mother for putting you into care or anything like that? Or
no, my grudge was never with my mum. I just thought that the system hated me. Why have you taken me away from my mum? I wanted to go home. I mean, I spent the first 4 or 4 years in care running away. So I never really, I wanted to keep going home. It was tough. I mean, now and then I'd ask why I was put in care, but it was blatant. I was made a care order by the police and social services, so it was completely out of their hands. So I just wanted to come home.
You have a lovely poem about your mum, Michael. Would you like to recite it for us?
Yeah, so this poem's called 6 Rules, right? And because I like this poem, because when people talk about fathering, what you just said there, how do you have a role model, right? And so my mum never had my dad wasn't around as a role model, but my mum, God bless her, I used to watch a lot of TV with her. And so she'd show me a lot of films and I would pick up traits and she'll say, that man, there's boss, mum, I love that man. I'd look at what trait he's got and see if I can. So this is about me growing up my mum. So mother gave me my instincts, just like any old dad. She put me in front of the TV screen so I could fight like Ali the Champ. Mother gave me my instincts, but TV gave me the tools. So mother said, to survive on the streets, you need to follow some rules. The first rule she taught me, she said, son, keep ahead of the game. If you can't do the time, don't you go out to play. Always keep your manners in your shoes, healed and clean, and your ears to the ground, and your eyes always peeled. She fed me on James Cagney, so I would grow loving my ma. She fed me on Otis Redding, so I could fight my way out the docks. She fed me on Elvis Presley, so I don't step on people's shoes. But mother said, to survive on the streets, you need to follow some rules. And the first rule she taught me, she said, son, keep ahead of the game. And if you can't do your time, don't you go out to play. Always keep your manners and your shoes healed and clean, and your ears to the ground, and your eyes always peeled. Now, normally, when I do this in a performance, I always try and bring the audience with this. So I use Junior. And Mama used to say, take your time, young man. Mama used to say, don't you rush to get old. Mama used to say, take it in your stride. Mama used to say, lead your life. Mama used to say. And that's my poem I do for my mum. Anytime I get a chance, 6 rules come out, because I think those 6 easy rules are quite easy to follow, right? It's not hard, is it? Keep your manners. I like the shoes healed and clean bit. She said to me one day, listen, always make sure your shoes are healed and clean, yeah? Because when people talk about you, they talk about you from behind your back. So if your shoes are leaning, not well cleaned and scuffed, no one's going to give you no money or talk about you in a good way. And it always stuck with me from that. Always make sure the shoes are healed and clean, because when people see me walking away, they ain't going to see that I'm on lean times. I'm not on lean times. That's
very good. I'd just like to share one piece of advice that my mother gave me as well, seeing as we're on the subject. I think it's a shorter saying, but it's love many, trust few, always paddle your own canoe.
Simple, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean? It just don't trust anybody, I hate when someone says to me, trust me. I'm not going to trust you, right? Because, you know, that's one of the key words of what I call to abuse. Trust me, man, I ain't going to do you nothing. Okay, what was the other beach you said?
Love many, trust few, always paddle your own canoe.
Yeah, so that means you've got to take responsibility, right?
Yeah. Well, I suppose just do your own thing and give love loads of people. Be very careful who you trust, and I try to stick by that. I don't always succeed with it, but I try my best to use it as
try your best. Well, at least you've got a set of rules to stick by, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a very good video. I mentioned that you're a filmmaker in the introduction there. There's a very good video on YouTube of you. I am Michael.
Yeah.
Just telling kind of the story of what happened, and there's a lovely poem you say during that. Would you mind reciting that as well, if you can remember it?
Which one was that one? Hype. Believe what you want to believe, then listen to the hype.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's what the film was all based on, wasn't it? So, believe what you want to believe, then listen to the hype. They will tell you who I am. They will create my type. I watched the police shoot my mother, Brixton Riots. They came locking me up, trying to even the score. The police sell deaths goes unnoticed by justice or the law, saying that we're the reason for their rotten core. Trapped within the inner cities like a slave on a ship. We try and demonstrate. It's called shoulders with a chip. They change rules and regulations so all situations fit. What chances do we really have? None that really exist. I am the product they simply call the system child, out of control and evil, born to be wild. And believe what you want to believe and listen to the hype, but they will tell you who I am. They will create my type. Well, now I've turned to poetry. It's my new form of attack. I will believe in myself, and self-respect will not lack. No longer will I take this. It's time for me to be bold. It's time to stop being pushed around and forever being told, yes, I may have gone through life, committing 1 or 2 crimes, but I did do my sentence and I've served all my time. But people want me to go through life with rage in my heart, which they did achieve right at the very start. But if I am being honest, I was a fool to follow that street game. So the mess that my life went through, I will take the blame. And as I wrote this particular poem, my conscience was very clear. I will achieve all my ambitions without the slightest fear. So the type that they created no longer will exist. I am Michael, the culture poet. That I must insist. Or believe it and listen to the hype, but they will tell you who I am. They will create my type.
Fair play, man. It's a brilliant video as well. Oh, it's brilliantly acted. So
yeah, the kids were brilliant in that. That was sponsored by. Well, you saw it sponsored by, and it was done for the youth service. During
the riots themselves, when they went on, were you in custody during them, or were you kind of out in the street?
No. I was still on the run, right? So I was in hiding. Then once the riots kicked off, and then I was moved to another safe house, so I don't get involved because everyone's really worried. And then I had to meet the police on a Sunday, so I'd missed all that bit out. And then I went to court on a Monday, so yeah, I missed the whole lot. I wasn't in there. Funny. It was really weird because I was in all the other riots except for this one. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't. Well, it was important that I wasn't arrested. I think that was the key there. That they didn't want me to get arrested during that riot. It would have spoiled everything for them. So it was almost like a sense of I had to make sure I just had myself in with least issues as possible. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I suppose it'd be good to remember the photojournalist David Hodge. He died during the riots. He was attacked by looters and he was trying to photograph. He died of an aneurysm.
That was really sad. And I think that was one of the first things I did with one of my projects was to bring his name involved and to remember it, because there's a lot of people forget that someone got killed in the Brixton Riots. It's almost brushed under the carpet. So I think that was one of the first things I did, was to acknowledge that and to say that we must never forget that as well. I was lucky, my mum got shot, but she survived, right? Someone got into the riot and he died. So there's like, it kind of sometimes put it into balance, doesn't it, as well? You know, that impact is there. So that was really important that I addressed that, I think.
50 people were injured, 200 arrests were made, one building, dozens of cars destroyed, shops were looting. You know, it's been argued, you know, looting and rioting in your own neighborhood, is that kind of counterproductive? Like, would it not make more sense to loot and riot in an affluent area rather than your own?
Well, I don't know. I think it's all about geography at the time, right? And the landscape was. Up to that point, we never travelled. You don't have board. You know, like you've got county lines where other people go out to other areas. You didn't leave your area, and especially in land between Brixton, you didn't actually leave your postcode itself. So I think their range of where they're going to go to express themselves was limited. I mean, it's limited to where they are, right? So I also understand that in their frustration, but some of that looting was self-serving. That was the key here, isn't it? It's almost, you're dealing with a set of people that's unruly already, right? Who are in a poverty-stricken area. Something's gone wrong, and this is an opportunity to gain as well as their voice. And I think we were politically astute enough to understand what we're doing. It's only, you know, so it's not. But if you go back, actually, my family was calling to not riot. That makes sense. We was like, no, we don't want you to riot, right? Please stop doing it. I mean, I come from a Christian family. My mother's grandmother's a Christian. We grew up in a Christian household. We know from good and bad. We realize that some of those reactions was coming from a different sector, more militant voice of the community, because there's an actual other side of the community that's not heard of. And again, when I was writing, I did a thing, Who Says Because I'm Black, right, a poem. And it talks about these labels that they give us within my community. Like, it's all right for me to be associated with gangs, coke, weed, guns, but no one actually associates me with a doctor or psychiatrist as a job, right? As an income. Even when I remember once someone said, policeman said, do you work? I said, yeah. He goes, come on. And I said, no, I don't work. He goes, do you sign on? And I didn't sign on. I goes, no, I don't sign on. He looked at me, he goes, come on. That tells you where you think what my station is, right? And so I think it's really a difficult one to say to people. You know, normally the rioters would have been probably more criminal-minded, right? If it would have been more to do with an element of society that you're clashing with, someone off the front line, which would what made the Brixton Riots slightly different. The first one in '81, still looted, but that was mainly because you was dealing with the line, right, which was a no-go zone area, and everybody's fighting. Whereas with my mum's one, it was your mum. It was someone's mum that got shot. So that brought out a much more wider audience of people. Yeah. Again, some of them understood the process, and they understood that reacting at that moment could have been detrimental to the situation, and it's not what they do. That's the councillors, people that was engaged in the voluntary sector, activists, all these other people. They knew how to do it, but then of course the others whose voices are riled, who's going to go out there, was rude. Is going to loot. So you're going to get the two elements expressing themselves on this one subject, and it's going to cross over. So that's why we call it an uprising more than it was a riot, because we weren't. I think riot indicates looting, right? Whereas uprising indicates it's an uprising. We've all got up together. That makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, some people got injured, and again, it's all about, listen. If you look at my criminal record, it shows you that. When I was in London, all my crime is around my area of me, right? So if I went to Reading, again, the crime would happen all around me, because I don't know Reading, so I'm going to stick to my own. I became a poet. So when I became a poet, my circle of interaction and I started. I had a wide circle of interaction through my prison sentences and traveling the country in care, right? So I've always been that interaction. But when I came back to London, it was always limited because them didn't have that same interaction as me, right? So I didn't build on that until my poetry. So when my poetry came, it opened up my introduction of where I can go again. And I was traveling to West London, East London, North London. I was going to Bristol, Wales, Scotland. I was engaging with politicians and everybody all around there, people like yourself, like-minded. It's not criminal, but we've all got a way of expressing ourselves, right? And the poetry, whether I'm not throwing bricks on one, I'm throwing lyrics, opened up a different dialogue for me. So now, all of a sudden, I can now use non-violent communication to bring across something. Whereas before, I didn't have that skill set before. So I'm limited to be heard, right? And so I think until we start educating people to express themselves, that's one of the things I do with my work, is to express themselves. And I've been doing that from on the wings. When I see men, right, get a letter. I see a prisoner get a letter in front of me. He couldn't read. He had it upside down. He made up what he thought he was reading. He presumed his girl written him a dear John, right? And so he was like, that bitch, and he's kicked his door in, smashed the cell. He had no other form of expressing himself apart from doing it that way, right? Until I said, yo, do you want me to read your letter? He goes, no, man. I know you can't read. It's upside down, brother. And he said, oh, I didn't want you to know, chew your Michael Groce foot in your mouth. So I sat down with him and I read his letter with him. It was a lovely letter. The girl said, I can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to visit you. He started smiling. And then I had to write the letter for him. But the key to the argument I'm saying is, after I did that first letter, I then made him start writing himself, but would be beside him. So we hope that he can start picking up himself, right? And now he can express himself differently. And I think that's what it's all about, giving them that tool set to people and be able to express themselves, you know, in the right way so that you can get things done, right, without resorting to violence. And if you can have that in your own makeup, right, then you express yourself across the whole of your life better. So we was talking about domestic violence before, right? All right, when in the research. My only form of expression in the past was violence. That makes sense. Violence or no comment, right? So it was like, I'm either like that or I'm like that. And so it went right across my life. I was like that in relationships. I could be like that with friends. I'm sure you know friends who are volatile. You can have a drink with them and he'll go, what do you say? You got to be on your tender hooks, right? Oh, and he said, you got to know what you're saying to them because he just reacts in a certain way, right? And so I think, yeah, that idea of embracing this non-violent communication with someone and sharing that with them, I think is a gift in itself because it gives you extra power. And that's what, you know, you even saw that in that video. That I would never have behaved like that 15, 20 years ago. That wouldn't have happened, really. Maybe, definitely 20 years ago when I was still recovering, I would never have reacted that way. I would have gone straight. That's why I said to you, me being on the street, having that violent tendency, reacting in a violent, non-aggressive way that goes right across my whole being as a person is detrimental to people that's going to get close to me, you know, because I'm going to take the law in my own hands, right? And be responsible for it. Like you said, I'm going to steer my own ship here, and I'm dealing with. So sometimes to do that, you've got to be forthright in what you're doing, right? So again, non-violence, bring that back.
I was watching Only Fools and Horses last night, and you know, Delboy and Rodney was on about how Delboy could be a bit unscrupulous and how he makes money. And I think it was the 81 Brixton Riots is what he was referring to, but he was saying that during the Brixton Riots, Delboy was down with slabs of concrete to sell to the rioters, like, you know, and he was like, mine is not the reason why, mine is but selling by. That just came into my head a minute ago there when you were on about it.
I love football. I do love that program.
Before we finish up on the rights, Michael, you played kind of a key role in ending the rights as well, didn't you? Because you asked the people to stand down, or you appealed for it to stop.
Yeah. That was again. That was a really weird one because I think there was a point when we wasn't saying nothing, and then because they came to us and said, "Could you go on the news and ask it to be stopped?" And I was like, "I don't know if I can do that," but we went on there because we felt we had a really good chance of winning what was going on with the police now. I thought it was so clear cut that anything we could have done to divert away anything from my mum, we would try and do. So yeah, I don't know if I'm a hero for it though, because at that time it was a mixed feeling when they was asking me. That makes sense, even though it was the right thing to do. It was still mixed. I'm still bitter with them. So I think it was one of those mixed moments in my life where that taught you that sometimes you've got to do the right thing rather than the thing I want to do. So I think it was the right thing to do.
It's like in Taxi Driver. I know they're two very different things now, but the hero of the movie easily could have been the villain, if that makes sense, you know. And yeah, like I suppose the other side of the coin, if you had been shot instead of your mum, there wouldn't have been rights, more than likely.
There wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's just a paradox.
Yeah, I think I'm saying if it was me that got shot, I would have, especially the story would have come out straight away as well. What I did, it was no far different from when what's the name of my guy Mo? Was it Ron Mo when he was on the run with the police? Very similar in a sense of what, and his outcome would have been probably what I would have gone through if I continued on that road, right? If I'd continued, so would they have been all right? No, I would have been deserved. They would say he's a nutter. Look at that nutter getting killed. Blam blam blam. But your mum, it's not the same thing. So it had a different feel to it.
No, the cop who ended up shooting your mum, Douglas Lovelock. Can you maybe explain what happened to him when he went to court?
So he went to court and he was cleared of GBH with intent. I didn't even know they got GBH with intent in, but I think we was set up with that charge because it was never going to work. That GBH, he would have been done. Unintentionally wounded, he would have got it. But to put the intent on there was a very clever thing. That's what they did in them days to get their officers off. So he got not guilty, but I think he was forced out. You know, he wasn't quite the same officer as he was before, and so I think when he finally left, he was under the best of situations. I know he's quite ill now. I'm not too sure how true that is, but you know, it must have been tough on him as well.
No, I know that your mother got a bit of compensation for what happened, but I think justice would have been more appropriate than that. Like.
Yeah, justice is that's what I'm saying. That compensation is almost like a bitter pill. You know what I mean? It's a bitter pill because what you really want is the justice. So we got them in the civil court, which makes no sense. We can get you in the civil court, but we couldn't get you in the criminal. Now I understand what the liability was. There was a liability in the way they did their work. And so,
yeah, I suppose another woman as well, I think it's important to reference, and she's no friend of the Irish, she's no friend of Scousers, no friend of the Scots, was Maggie Thatcher. And she approved for that raid on your mum's house, Michael, isn't that right? Like, she signed off on it.
Yeah, well, because you have a certain level of warrant. So they had to shoot to kill, right? So you need 2 signatures for that. You need the Home Secretary, you need the Maggie Thatcher. Yeah. So yeah, it was an authorised hit in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah, I've spoken to, and it's a topic I'm quite interested in, is what it was like being Irish in the UK in the 70s and 80s, and particularly in London. I'm a big fan of Shane McGowan and the Pogues, and it was a difficult time to be Irish in London at that time with the Troubles and provisional IRA bombing campaigns and that in London. But there was great solidarity between the Irish people and the black people in London, from what you've said. And, you know, from the signs and the pubs and the doors, like no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. My friend Jake Abraham at the time, he was the first guest in the podcast. His grandmother was from Tralee, County Kerry, and his granddad was an African soldier from Nigeria.
Okay.
I was just making the joke that on a Sunday afternoon they should have brought their dog to the local pub, like, and try to get in. No blacks, no dogs. But I suppose there was great solidarity between, I suppose, because they were victimized. Did you notice the anti-Irish feeling in London at the time, Michael, when you were growing up yourself?
Yeah, of course there was always, and of course there was. I mean, I saw an anti-Irish more again through the Thatcher period as well. So I grew up through the Thatcher era as a little boy, right? And so you saw it more, in Sussex. You saw it more because Sussex was an English county, right? And so when you didn't see as much as Irish or someone in an accent, it was really picked on, and there was a lot of anti going on around the countryside, right? And then I come to London, and you'd see it, but it was almost like it was an acceptable thing because we all stuck in the same area. So in Brixton, it was much less. You get it more on the edge of it, but it was much less that I would see of it. But where we were solidarity is that some of us was anti-English, some of them was anti-English. And I found that difficult as well because I grew up amongst the English. So I know I was meant to be anti-English, but there was, I think, I could say where I was from, Lambeth Walk, there was a different battle going on as well. So it was more to do. Yeah, you had anti-Irish, but those Irish were drinking certain pubs, right? And if you got an Irish pub, they're more open to new people coming in, right? So you got blacks and Irish would mix together because we're both. As long as you weren't British, you're coming in. That makes sense. So, and if you was British boy, you need to prove yourself. There's some serious racism come from the black side against the British as well, right? And so, if you was English, you had a lot to prove out of all the race colours, I think, to engage with the other community members. So yeah, it was there, but I saw it more, especially when I went away, was in the countryside, or I did my Portland and Borstal, or I was in Huntercombe, or I was in Rochester. Them prisons, you saw it, because them boys didn't care. So,
You mentioned before about police corruption or police brutality. Well, at that time we had the Guildford 4 and the Birmingham 6, and it was the police injustice, and it was difficult. Because literally there were 10 people who had absolutely nothing to do with the bombings, ended up doing long jail sentences, and they were easy targets. Like, there was a man I had on last week, he wrote a song about Paddy Joe Hill, one of the Birmingham 6.
Yeah.
I suppose just it's quite apt to have you on this week, as the policeman put a gun in his mouth to force him to sign a statement.
Yeah.
Called him a murdering Irish fuck pig, put cigar ash out in his eye, just really horrific, brutal stuff, And I suppose, like the black people at the time, Irish people were an easy target at the time in the UK. So it's funny,
that's interesting.
It's fashionable. It's fashionable to be Irish. Sorry, I'm just saying, it's fashionable to be Irish now, and it's fashionable to be black.
Yeah.
40 years later, and it's just funny how times changed.
It's really okay. So I like what you said there, because when you actually create anti-Irish feeling, anti-British feeling, it's really to do with the authorities itself, right? The police, right? So the people will play on that because they've got the protection of the police if it comes on top, right? But the police generally were the ones, and the authorities were the ones of it. They beat you up in the cells, put guns in your mouth, and torture you. And because I saw that myself, or I'm in prison with people going through that, right? You're right. There's times I think maybe that could have played a part in why I had such disrespect to the police officer, and I've done it to him, because it's almost like, boom, you're getting it what you give to us. That makes sense. You know what I mean? It's something to be, but it's almost a hidden thing. Right? Not many people understand that until you get nicked, right? Until you get nicked and you get sentenced, and then your family can see the injustice that's happened to you. You might get a campaign out of it. Do you remember George Davis and all these other campaigns? What was going on? The Supergrass, the IRA bombers, the Guildford 4. Because I was at trial with the Guildford 4 on my charge, on an armed robbery charge. We was in court together, sitting in the cells, share the same barristers. And when you read their court cases, well, you just think there's so much injustice that goes on there. And again, there is this influence, especially in the justice system. There is this discrimination that goes on. And now, like you're saying, I've never seen it before. From travellers love, they're more black than black men now, right? Irish and travellers, they're more black than black men now. You can stand in the room with everybody, they all sound the same haircut, same fashion, doing the same thing, listening to the same music. You think, wow, what an amazing, but that to me is where that comes from, what we was talking about, that anti-Irish feeling, that grew amongst us first, right? That kind of diversity and acceptance of one another and respect and when it goes on, we would blend. So, that's why I took the Cockney accent, because my boys I end up moving with, we all spoke Cockney, rather more English. My English comes from me being in the countryside, but yeah, you're right. The anti-police, they were nasty, weren't they, matey?
Yeah, I have a song here that the Pogues used to sing, The Streets of Sorrow / Birmingham 6, okay? I'm just going to read out I don't know if you're familiar with the song, but I'm just going to read it out to you. I think you might find it interesting, and I think our viewers will as well. So I'm just going to read it out to you. If I thought of it earlier, I might have sung it, but I don't think I'd give a good account of it. So I'm just going to read it out. There were 6 men in Birmingham. In Guildford, there's 4. They were picked up and tortured and framed by the law. Yeah. And the filth got promotion, but they're still doing time for being Irish in the wrong place and at the wrong time. In Ireland, they'll put you away in the maze. In England, they'll keep you for 7 long days. God help you if ever you're caught in these shores. The coppers need someone and they walk through that door. You'll be counting years, first 5, then 10, growing old in a lonely hell. Round the yard and the stinking cell, from wall to wall and back again. A curse on the judges, the coppers and screws, who tortured the innocent wrongly accused. For the price of promotion and justice to sell, may the judges be their judges when they rot down in hell. May the whores of the empire lie awake in their beds and sweat as they count out the sins in their heads, while over in Ireland 8 more men lie dead, kicked down and shot in the back of the head. You'll be counting years, first 5, then 10, growing old in a freezing hell, round the yard and the lousy cell, from wall to wall, then back again. Strong enough?
I love that. It's a beautiful poem, isn't it?
Well, it's actually a song. I'll send it on to you after. The Pogues, The Streets of Sorrow.
They did that.
But I mentioned, I suppose, just to show where I'm going with the whole Pogues thing. I have a story with myself and Brixton, which I mentioned to you earlier, but I'm going to say it again here, that I went to see the Pogues play in the Brixton Academy in your neck of the woods in December 2010, a few days before Christmas. Great gig, really enjoyed it. And ended up in the Brixton Jam. A rumour went around that Shane McGowan was going to turn up in the Brixton Jam. He didn't, but it was still a good night. And it's funny getting off the tube. Is it the Blue Line in London, the tube line?
The Victoria Line, yeah.
Yeah, we get off and the lads were selling the tickets, touts, obviously, it was great. It was just nice. There was a bar on the corner of the Brixton Academy. They were playing the really old folk songs that you wouldn't really hear played on the radio and stuff. So it was a great night. But coming back from after the gig, there was a Rastafarian guy who I didn't realise at the time, but he was moonlighting, as in he was picking up people for taxi license. And I suppose I had a few drinks in me or whatever, and I got in the car with him, and he dropped it. He difficultly finding the hotel. I was staying in Victoria at the time, that night. But I just remember thinking on the way, this guy could be anyone, Out there, I got into a car with him.
I'm telling you.
But he got me home safe and sound. It was just funny, just a Jamaican guy, or a guy of Jamaican descent and an Irishman, and in his car coming back, and it was like, it's a good story.
There's a lot of that moonlight that goes on in Brixton. But I tell you what, though, you chose the right one, though. You're better off with the Jamaican cab driver. He's not going to want to spoil the hustle, He wants to spoil the hustle. But,
he was like Bob Marley, Just keep look at him. He was hat and everything. Brilliant. So you have a very good poem about the Irish connection with Black people. Let the Guinness flow. You want to give us a bar of that?
Okay, so Yeah, I wrote this because yeah, I had to do the Afro Irish Festival. Says, let the Guinness flow, my friends, the black and white together. For the history of our paths will be entwined forever, from the Irish seas to the Celtic shores, to the distant roots of Mother Africa. It's the inspiration for our source, for we tell the same story. It's the same story we tell our daughters and our sons as we recollect and ponder about those negative things that's been done. We hear the painful cries of slavery, smell the death of freedom wars, as so many of our people bravely died for the cause. And as they crossed the Atlantic, many becoming victims of the sea, they would gaze towards their motherland as returning home becomes a dream. And the Irish music kept on playing, and the Afro drums kept on beating, and the Irish feet kept on dancing. Let the Guinness flow, and the Irish hearts kept on pumping, and the Afro heart hands kept on pumping, and together they kept on fighting with let the Guinness flow. So let the Guinness flow, my friends, the black and white together. For the history of our paths will be entwined forever, from the Irish seas to the Celtic shores, to the distant roots of Mother Africa is the inspiration for our source, because we tell the same story. Peace to the Irishman. I love that poem.
Yeah, so do I. Fair play to you. You fell into addictions in later years, Michael, and crack cocaine was one of your voices at the time.
Yeah.
And you wrote a very profound poem, which you recited in James English, called the Charlie poem, summarising the kind of feelings and emotions behind your relationship with cocaine. You're going to give us a bar of that, that'd be nice.
So it goes, the pain of cocaine runs through my very vein. As a slave to its master, I bear a shackled chains. Shackled to my bottle, I have no focus with life. Why should I marry? But Charlie is my life. Boil, pen, bottle, that's all I need to make me tick. But then you won't hear my laughter until the lighter clicks, and then I'm on my pipe. My life's motorbike going down that rocky road. I took a puff. It wasn't enough. I feel like an ugly toad. What will I do? Where can I go? I need more of this devil's gold. Weeping, screaming, feeling depressed, warned but wouldn't be told. Silence. Of the outside world is loud, it begins to hurt. I need another stone to take away this uncertainty. What am I really doing? This must sound really sad. Why should I be doing this? You must think I'm really mad. This is becoming serious. No longer does it seem like a game. And this is one beast, my friends, I truly have to tame. I cannot blame the dealers, but only a service is what they feel. I can only blame myself for enjoying this deadly thrill. And I know I don't need this. It's all in my mind. I'm just believing myself. Self-respect I must find. So I'm going to throw away my bottle, put my futures in my hands, and against all adversity, I know I must stand. But the journey that's in front of me will be hard from the start. But I have new ambitions that's going to be ruling my heart. But I want to see the world without the Charlie list. Enjoy the more simple things like my girlfriend giving me a kiss. I love to hear the laughter of my children enjoying life and walking down the aisle, going to meet my wife. Love and care and kindness. That's all I need to make me tick. Things begin to fall in place and everything will just click. But do not give me credit or say that I've been bold. There's more to love than Charlie. I remember being told.
Beautiful, man. Fair play to you.
Yeah.
It kind of really sums up the struggles I'd say you had.
It does. I think it was one of those things that was a wake-up moment, because I wrote that when I was on the pipe itself. My girlfriend put it on me and said, "Can you write?" And I don't know. These moments of clarity sort of like comes up, doesn't it? And then she, when I wrote that poem, it helped me to go on that journey of trying to, go straight. It was a long journey, but like you say, that was my first step. So I don't really do much that poem no more. It's sort of like one of those things there. It's almost, yeah, someone has to be requested out of me. But yeah, but thank you for the comments.
I gave it the push in the right direction. So I loved your music video you did, Michael. Kiss, KISS. You look like a real movie star in it with the sunglasses. So. And by the way, your Instagram photo as well. You kind of look a bit like, Samuel L. Jackson in Django. So he's like the house. Yeah.
My friend said, what is it that you don't do? I said, I don't know. I'm just doing. I think, if just enjoy life. If I got an opportunity, I'm going to do it. I'm literally, that happened over a day, maybe 2 days. I went to visit someone, and they said, we're doing a poetry event. Why don't you come along? And I said, I've got a little track I can do it to. And he was like, yeah, I'll bring a camera. And we literally did that on the roof in Brixton. It was an amazing day. So I've got another one coming up soon. I'm doing a filming in April. In February 21st, I'll be doing a live 3-track this time, EP. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
No, you are a gifted poet, and you know what I mean. I really enjoy your poems. And you mentioned you may be potentially coming over to the Emerald Isle to do performance at some stage.
I think confirmed I am coming over. I think there's a team of us coming on. I'm hoping to go with a woman called Celine Salon, who does this poetry event. It was while I was doing an event with her that there was a guy there from Ireland. He said, how much did it cost to bring you over? She told him. He goes, I think we got your money. Now it's been confirmed. So yeah. Once the dates are up, brother, I'll let you know, man.
You should you should drop into Cork on the tour. That's the real capital, like, it'd be nice to see you. We appreciate a good poem in Cork as well. So
yeah, I'd love to come to Cork, man. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Once I got the dates, I'll make that as part of my date with you. All right? I'll say if you're available, wherever I can come to, let me know, and I'll come to Cork, man, and do something. I've got a couple of friends over there as well, so it'd be great. And I've heard it's a beautiful place, so I'm really looking forward to coming over there and visiting Ireland, man.
Do you know yet where? You know what city's been confirmed?
No, I don't know yet. No. But once I've done it, I've done the whole of UK, then I've done the United Kingdom, because I've done Wales, Scotland, Ireland's the only one left for me. So I'll be really pleased if I can get under my belt.
The full set, yeah. About the music as well, can you tell us about the band you were in with the humorous name? I found this very funny.
The Cunts.
And your role in the Cunts?
Yeah. What it was, I was, Alabama Free?
Yeah.
So Alabama Free invited me on their album. And I was on their song called Lord Have Mercy. So I did Lord Have Mercy for them. And I put my mum's poem in there. They wanted my mum's poem in there, Groce and Justice. So I stuck it on there. And then Larry Love, the lead singer of Alabama Free, goes, Michael Gross, I think you should come in this band we're putting together. It's called The Cunts. I was like, what? What are you on about? He was like, yeah, man. He goes, you got the miserable cunt, you got the Welsh cunt, you got the old cunt, and we want you to be the black cunt. And I was like, yo, you sure, Larry? What's going on? He was like, no. What we want to do is we want to take back because the word actually is a proper word. It means waste of space. That's where it comes from, the word, right? And somehow it got transmitted into the family. So every time it becomes derogatory, it is a derogatory word, but the actual real word is a waste of space. So he goes, no, we want to claim it back. He goes, and we reckon if we introduce you on the stage as a black cunt, we would get everybody like we don't know what to do. And so my intro would be like, sticks and bones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And then I'll do my set, And then when they finish, they're like, oh, the black card, oh! Yeah. And so kilt, boa constrictor, feather boa constrictor, kilt, Bob Martin, bit of makeup. It's a punk band. Off we went. So we did the Cannabis Festival, and we got our dream in there. We actually got an article in the Times. So we achieved what we really wanted to achieve. And there it was in the Times, the Cunts player, the Cunts player. So I was going to use that in my because I got arrested for calling someone a cunt. I was actually going to use that in my defence, but I thought, no, I can't be bothered to really go to court and explain it to the judge and everything. Now, when I called him a cunt, I thought he's one of my fans. You know what I mean? You're a cunt, you know? He took it wrong, didn't he? He took it, he goes, oh, he threatened you. He goes, no, I didn't threaten you. I just said you're a cunt. But he took that as a threat and I got nicked, so I was going to use that in court and say, no, it's not a bad word because I'm the black cunt. And you know what? I tell you what, this is a true story, right? I was telling the story to someone. I didn't know that in the house, the kid was there upstairs, right? We all thought he was asleep. He heard what I was saying. So, a couple of weeks later, his mum was on the phone. It was his mum's house. His mum was at the phone. She was talking, and she said to me, she told me this story, and I loved it. And she said, I was talking to my boy today, and he said to me, who are you talking to on the phone? And she goes, I'm talking to Michael. He goes, oh, the black cunt. She goes, oh, the black cunt, he's all right, him. And she's like, what? And he's like, the black cunt. And she's like, no, you don't call him that. He goes, he's the black cunt, mum. You're like, no. And she said, the way he said it, she said he said it with affection. And I thought, there you go. I think we've released, that was what it is all about. I think we brought back that word, didn't we? It's not derogatory as such.
Yeah.
It's multitasking, that word, right? Yeah, the black cunt. You know,
the cunts launching their war. The cunts launching their war on political correctness, you know. That kind of reminds me of again, this is almost becoming a Pogues podcast, but the Pogues meaning in Gaelic, the actual full title is Pogue Mahones, which means kiss my arse in Gaelic. But the BBC wouldn't allow them to put that out, so they had to abbreviate it to the Pogue. So
that's why we didn't make it to the BBC or the charts, because I think our name was too harsh for everybody, wasn't it?
Unless you change the struggle and grunts or something like, you know.
Yeah. Slippery walls. What about slippery walls? That could be good.
Actually, that reminds me, the Pogues, before they played the first gig, I just thought to throw this in, that their first gig, I think they had a different band name before. I think it was the New Republicans or something like that. They were in a band playing rebel music at the height of the Troubles, and there happened to be some British squaddies in the bar at the time, and they literally got fish and chips pelted at them for the whole night. They had to come off stage.
Okay.
So that's just a fun fact there, just about Shane McGowan and co.
Funny you mentioned the squaddies, because I did my first ball tour with the British squaddies, fighting them in Reading. There's a famous, they've got a barracks in a place called Abingdon, which is outside Reading, and they used to come into Reading town and drink. And they were brave though. They were brave. They'd sit there, but that night it was a bit came on top. So sorry mate, I didn't mean to add that in there.
You mentioned about restorative justice a while ago, and I suppose that's just a technique that people that have committed crimes have done to right the wrong, and kind of going around people. Could you maybe explain restorative justice to people? Okay,
so restorative justice is correcting, putting back what you destroyed, in essence. So say I met you, and we put you in an injury. We've got to try and do our best to make the quality of life you had, help you get that back again. And so you've got to be aware of all the victims involved in that behaviour. And so one of the things that we find that working with ex-offenders, they feel sometimes they're entitled to things like a flat and a job and money and start everything else again, and then they commit another crime, they're back in again. And I think sometimes we're not appreciative of what is available to us. And so when we work with ex-offenders, as part of our deal, you have to do some type of restorative justice with us. Whether it's we help you set up your business, then we expect part of that to give free hair or cheaper haircuts to maybe an ex-offender or older people on probation. Something that's not profitable to you in that structure. Come back and do a workshop with me. Do something, a gardening project, something local. Currency and kindness, but be aware of where you are and don't be entitled. I get a lot of probation. I get a lot of people tell me, and again, it's victim led, and so I work with the system. So my job is to help the system be as smooth as possible for your journey to be as smooth as it can, and you take advantage of it rather than advantage of it and become disadvantaged. So you get a lot of personal issues with ex-offenders going into probation or working their probation or not doing their management sentencing problem, and they're blaming everybody else for their own shortfallings, right? And so we try and bring that home, that in again, and say, no, you need to. The reason why this is happening because you're doing that, and it's all led by you, and we have to feel sorry for you. I don't have to feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for the victim, your children, your mother, your sister, those people that's been affected, those that come and visit you, those that to save money, go out their way to feed you, and send you stuff in the prison that you accept as entitlement. So it's underpinned. And I did mine. My one lasted. My justice lasted nearly. I started it in 2005. Let's say 8 years, 9 years. I'm still doing it now. That makes sense. Everything I do has to have a restorative justice base in it. And this is where my love of Jaffa cakes come from, because a lot of people can't afford my service. So they just bring their Jaffa cakes. See, I've got it now. You know, where I live now, I live in Orpington now.
I posted some after this for the podcast as well, so I can post you some after this for the podcast.
I live in Orpington now, and in my state, they're now telling me I should have I need an assistant because I'm working with so much different people with my state. Same way, it's just being a bit of kind and politeness, right? They say I'm calm and polite, I show manners, they show that back to me, and then we help each other, whether it's they need help with moving or filling up forms. And so it's naturally underpinned in me. There's no money in it. And all I ask people to do is give me Jaffa cakes. So I get loads of them for the year. I thought, well, what advice do I have that I don't, it's costing me? You know, I'm spending loads of money in Jaffa cakes, like 3 or 4 boxes a day sometimes. That's how much I love them, right? So, you know what, that's a nice gift, isn't it? Someone can go as a Jaffa cake. I think that's a lovely way of doing things. So
you can also use them in your workshops, you know, like full moon, half moon, total eclipse.
That's right. You share them when they become a tool as well, because you end up sharing them with people. You'd be surprised how many people that give me Jaffa cakes tell me they love them as well. So as soon as you do that, you straight away there's a connection, isn't there? And that's when I always do it. Do you like Jaffa cakes? Yeah, I just pour it on the plate. But you know how hard it is to start a box of Jaffa cakes and share that. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, like Pringles.
Yeah.
Let's move on, I suppose, to your community work, Michael. Like you play a huge role in the local community, and can you maybe tell us a bit about the grassroots interceptors and the booted and rooted projects you worked on?
So what happened was it started off with me doing workshops with young kids in Peru schools doing poetry workshops, and then it started to do more work. But the problem was the more clients I was attracting, I had to set up certain structures. So it was meant to set up my social enterprise, which is booted and rooted, and everything goes through that. And so it does 4 things: restorative justice, dialogue by design, non-violent communication, and what you call the ABCD, which is asset building. Any building that's in my borough by the council, this empty, if I come up with an idea, I'm entitled to use that. That's called ABCD. So if you've got a council in your area, it's called asset building, community assets, something, right? Development. So if you've got that in your area and you see a building and it's being empty and it's a council, come out with a proposal, and they're meant to help you put that together, right? And so non-violent communication was done because I want my communication to be non-violent and poetry-led as well. We do dialogue by design, which is an amazing tool to have. It's a training that allows me to dialogue with people at any level, and I can know exactly how to put it together. And then there's the theory of change, which is what you need if you're going to be working with all these organisations. You need to understand what the theory of change is and how to put that together. And I just seem to have an ability to do all of them 4 things in one hit. That makes sense. And so that became the grounding force of me doing public engagement. on the community levels, anything to do with community, whether it be starting off a new group, you want to do consultation with the council. So my one is kind of like people benefit, but community led. So it's not led by any organisation that's funding us. That was really important as well. So we raise money through the arts, the work I do for the arts, whatever I do through that motivational speaking, what I raise goes back into my company, and then we deliver our projects. But so I've been doing that now for, well, like I say, it really started back just when I was coming off my cocaine habit. I was still kind of like on the streets, and then I did my first big football project, loved it, and met my partner at the time was a youth worker. And so she introduced me to some of the kids, and that's where it built up from there. And what the advantage that I have is because of the riots, especially in Lambeth, over England, impacting so many people, they know where they were when that happened, that kind of scenario. It just opened the door for me to go through places where a lot of people won't go through. And so that brings a lot of leverage to what I do. So whereas someone might say, I mean, we just done pass the baton. Yeah. I did pass the baton. Within 4 weeks, I was talking to the police, to their recruits. I did 4 workshops with them. I'm in Scotland Yard doing stuff with the Chief Commissioner. Straight away, it wasn't even like a back door. I got to go on the waiting list. I was just in that door doing my performance for them, and then building on what we need to build to. So I realised that my position allows me to go through doors, and if I put the right safeguarding places, then we can help a lot of people. So again, if I'm going to work with criminals, I wanted them to be able to disclose their past and then have something in place that they've done something about that. So that's where the restorative justice was added into all that. And of course, one of the things we do to help restorative justice is part of that as well. Sorry to go on a bit, but I have what you call NCFB online school certification. It's called Discovering and Exploring Enterprise. And that's about building websites or building yourself an enterprise or come up with a project, and we help you put that together and get you funding. So that's the whole package of it all, really. And I can take it wherever I want to take it. My missus used to look at me and she said, I don't, because you're so lucky, you can get up in the morning, you haven't got a clue where your day's going, but we know it's going somewhere. You know what I mean? So yeah. I could get a phone call from someone. I met someone the other day, for example, we're doing a new project called Portal, where we put Facebook portals of vulnerable and isolated elderly people, and made a little short video on my phone, showed it to someone who was one of the who I thought was a key worker or a volunteer worker with this elderly person I'm working with. Finds out she works for a corporate company. She saw the video. Next thing you know, she's donating money, equipment, the portal, and supporting the project. So those type of things is what we try to inspire out of people, that they're motivated to want to do something. So it's been good.
Like you were on Russell Howard, Michael, for passing the baton, which was great exposure. Yeah. And like I suppose the aim of the project, I suppose you were saying there, is to build relationships between the police and the local community, to show that they're not the enemy as such, well, collaboratively. I think like if a middle class random guy just came in and spouted or tried to sell that project to the youth of Brixton, it wouldn't really wash, I'd say. But the fact that you personally have had battles with the police in the past, your mother was paralysed by one, Brixton, with the fact that you're willing to build relationships and let bygones be bygones and move on, that definitely will resonate a lot more, I would say. So I think you deserve great credit for that.
Thank you, man. It was strange because when I first came out with it, I got a little team that we worked with. We all looked at each other. The first time I actually said it to my main team, the support team, silence. I got silence. I was like, I got this idea for a project called Pass the Baton. I think it can really work. It's actually based on a poem called Decades On and Decades In. I'll send it to you. But I think we realised it would have a much more deeper impact, like you're saying. But it's not more than just police. It's because it's part of a thing called the joint agreement. So the joint agreement has got the police, probation, prison service, the fire brigade, and NHS involved. And I've done work with all of them. right? So because I've done work with all of them, it's about protecting frontline workers from assaults and violence. And so I thought, well, if that's the case, and I know the police is there, we need to address that first, because I thought if we didn't address that first, everyone would think I'm trying to avoid the police. Well, actually, no. If I address that first, then we all know that we're here to bridge, not burn. So it was a privilege to come forward, and I felt within myself that it's such a right thing to do. I felt liberated by it all. And I actually saw people's faces afterwards. They felt liberated, because I think, like you say, we need another way of selling it now, right? I think we've gone on now, isn't it? This negative, and they're human beings. I think that's what we got to remember. Like you say, we got to go back to the humanness of life. I think that's what the key is for me. Even at your conversation there, you didn't mention the word black. You just said someone had a battle with police. His mum was shot, and blah blah blah, and he's still coming forward. That's what we want to see. That's a different way. Rather than, you could have said it was a black kid who had a black excuse, but no, we saw the issue. It's more than that. It's more than just a black on police, and that. It's about people doing a job, and there are people who benefit from the safety of what they're doing, right? Who need it, right? From burglaries, from crime, whatever it is, and we got to respect that. They're doing it for them, really, right? For those who's doing the right things. So they're protecting your property, your thingy. They don't always do a great job, but it's something we have to look at. So yeah, but thank you again for that comment.
Yeah. The shopkeepers as well are another group of people that you've helped protect in the local community. Can you maybe tell us a bit about that?
With the football?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's really strange because this local shopkeeper come up to me. He was like, "Are you cowboy?" He called me by my nickname. Actually, come and saw me at the pub. I was like, what does he want? He told me this story about he's getting shoplifting risen. He was near a school, and the shopkeepers was, doing shoplifting into his profits. And he mentioned it to someone that was shopping. They said, "Come and see me. You'll find him in the pub." So he came to see me. So I was like, "Interesting. How much did you lose?" And he told me how much he's losing for a week. And I went, "Why don't you just give me X amount of money?" And so then I decided to go around and find out who else was involved. And it was like a square of them, of shops. That was all. When the school gets released, the kids descend on it and just completely ransacking the whole place. And so I realised I knew some of the kids, and we advertised football competition. Within a couple of weeks, I had them playing on the pitch. The kids was bringing in. The idea was the 18-year-olds would bring in under 15-year-olds, the 15-year-olds would bring in under 11-year-olds, and then be like a little knock around for the under 8 or something like that. And so when we did the competition, there was a trophy there was medals there was sausage rolls and burgers and sweets and toffees and crisps. We gave them a little bag and everything like that. And then I said, "Did you enjoy yourself? Did you love it?" They said, yeah, it's wicked, man." I said, "Yeah, do you want more?" "Yeah, man, we're going to come every week, man. This is what we need, man. We need something like this, cowboy, man. And you're all right, man. My mum told me that if I do anything wrong, you got to hit me across the head," kind of attitude. So I goes, "Yeah." Well, it was the shopkeepers, and their face was a picture. They're the ones who give me the money, mate, right? The sausages come from the pub. That come from this. We're going to write a card. So we wrote a card. We put it together, and I got one of the kids to deliver it to all the people in the shop, a different one. And it just brought a different element. Shoplifting went down much more. The kids was much more friendly to the shop owners. Shop owners started to know the kids a bit more. Built up a lovely relationship. Did that for about a year. And that's what led me really into the community work. I think that's important.
Great collaboration there again. You mentioned football. You were a handy footballer yourself, Michael, when you were younger.
I could play. I played football. It started off in Brixton, playing at 5-a-sides in the street corners there. When I was put into care, it came up that I could play, and I really got into it big time. Played for Sussex schoolboys. Was going to get a trial for Brighton schoolboys. Then I came back to London, and so I picked up again in London. Played for the London school, South London boys, and I played for London boys. Had a trial at Dulwich. Millwall came in, tried to get to Palace, playing at Dulwich. So football was main element. If I didn't take it for pro, it's something I just love doing. I used to tell people, it's like, when I was on a football pitch, it's like art for me. It's like painting. It's like, you know, so, and it followed me all through my ball school. And the funny thing is, I went to a ball school called Portland Ball School, toughest Portland ball school, the toughest ball school in England. No blacks in there as well. So when I went up that prison, that was tough. But my football broke that barrier down. And so I realized it wasn't the football, but it was the football, but it was more than that. It was my application to the game. That is what they saw. And it was that Portland team, all of us had application. So they used to love watching us play because we would take on any team. We took on Weymouth Town, semi-pro, and we beat them in the Dorset Cup, got to the semi-final and final. I mean, they were pro, semi-pro, but we took them on. I think that application of how I went about my game, I've always been like that. And any manager will tell you, I will run every inch of that pitch for you. I ain't going to stop until I hear the whistle. And even then, I'm still in another game. What, we stopped? Yeah. Oh, my God, I've just got warmed up. You know, but yeah, I love football. Maybe that's my one regret. But I think if I went into it, I wouldn't have been where I am today with this poetry.
You almost got a trial with, or a contract with Reading, didn't you?
Yeah. Reading came to see me play in Portland Ball School. I didn't know. It was the officers that got me the trial. And so they gave me a guard of honor and everything in Portland Ball School. Shin pads, his PI came and bought me his shin pads. Someone bought me his boots. I was signing stuff. Officers was like, we can't wait to come and see you play. Came out, found out I got banned from Reading. So that was a big bitter pill. I was ready for that, but got my position, Paul Parker.
Yeah. Everyone's favourite sub at Man United, I'd say,
Yeah, Paul Parker got my position, man. Can you believe it? I'm like, oh,
it could have been Michael Groce on some winning all the trophies.
If you look, me and Paul Parker are almost the same height, same build. We played the same game. So, so I wasn't surprised he did well.
I remember you were very angry. You were saying when you couldn't accept the position with Reading, the prison wouldn't release you.
Well, the prison I had to come back. I got released from prison. And I needed boots and a kit. So I went to my social worker, because I was still under care then. And she's the one that said to me, I can't go because I was banned. I didn't know I was banned. I smashed the building and smashed the door down. I was proper angry. I was so upset. But in the end, I had to accept it that I wasn't allowed back in Reading, so the trial was gone. And the funny thing is, Portland Ball School, done by this guy here called Alan Fagan. He was the gym orderly at Portland Ball School when the team was there. He wrote a book about it, and I've done a foreword from it, talking about the football game. So, and that was the first question. He said, everybody was so upset in Portland. And his wife said, I've heard all about you. You're the one that had the trial for Reading at Portland Ball School. I was like, how did you know? Because everyone was talking about Screw's wives. It was a big thing. Yes, and we was all disappointed. But they never knew why. So he spoke to me again. I explained to him I wasn't allowed in the area. So it wasn't, no one knew. If they'd known, they would have got me in another club.
It probably contributed to maybe, remember you said you had a bit of a chip after that, that your dreams of being a footballer were kind of dashed. And, yeah.
But I'd done 18 months in prison, and I did 11 months of that in Portland Ball School, and I lived like a professional footballer through the whole of that. They trained me, I lived it, I became it, I was a footballer. So I was expected to continue that when I came out. Alas, it didn't happen. And so before I knew about it, I was back on the road again, like you're saying, chip on my shoulder. I did take my football back up again. It was firing again, but when my mum got shot, it stopped. I couldn't play no more. It was over.
Yeah.
They couldn't ever get me kick the ball again.
Your son Connor followed in your footsteps, though, and inherited your footballing ability and played for Millwall. They must be very proud.
Yeah. I am very proud. I mean, I've been, again. He's one of the main people that suffered with what went on with my life. If I had to pick a victim on my side, then I would say my children. But a lot of them got a lot of my traits, and he's got that sporting trait about him, and he did really well. So I was really proud of him. And it was almost like when I heard he ran out for Millwall, I was like, the boys are going to be like, what the hell, Cowboys son made it. But yeah, it was, and like you're saying, you think Millwall's going to be this pure white, and it's going to be anti-black and everything there. But no, they was proud of him. My pals were like, yo, that's Cowboys son. So I think it's, yeah, he did really well, and I'm proud of him for that. Whatever happens with your relationship, as my uncle said, achievements can't be taken away, can they? So it's a great achievement by him to actually live something that.
You did a bit of stewarding as well in Millwall, didn't you?
I did a bit of stewarding, yeah. It was in the days when you could do stewarding and get into the security work. I used to do a lot of security work from the pub, bars, clubs around South London. I didn't have to. I did some. We had my own security, but also my pals new security business. It was called Gold Rage as it goes to Millwall. Yeah, so I was down there for a couple of years.
Like myself, Michael, you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Kevin Keegan, you were saying, was your hero when you were younger.
Kevin Keegan, but Bill Shankly. I like the Bill Shankly way, right? So I like the Bill Shankly way and how he plays football. Play yourself with bravado. All right. It's they get a goal, you don't get a goal back. But the whole objective is not to get a goal and you win the game. So I just love Liverpool and the way they play. So and Kevin Keegan's like the wee man and the tall guy John Toshack together. Great combination, weren't they?
But Batman and Robin stuff like it.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love Klopp. He's another. Klopp's got the Shankly way, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he's reincarnation of him.
He's the reincarnation of Bill Shankly. And I feel he's going to stay in that job until Gerrard's ready. You know?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. I suppose we all know about the recent controversy with Mason Greenwood, with the domestic abuse and all that. You were the victim of a different kind of domestic abuse during the summer. We were meant to have our interview last year, and I think at the time you uploaded the video around that time to set a DVB for a while because things seemed to be a bit rough with you. Can you maybe just explain what happened there? It's a video. I'm going to link it in below.
So what happened was my neighbours, I've got a garden, and one of my neighbours asked me, can I open it to the kids so they can get some fresh air and a little barbecue to do with COVID? I said, yeah, no problem. There was some whole history going on around the area, and so some of the staff was there. I was just open, being polite, and then one woman literally walked into my house, and she started drinking and started to get at 6. We finished about 6:30. I gave it about half an hour for my neighbour to stay with me, and she just wouldn't leave. She was just drunk, pissed, just really behaving badly. And to a point, it's got abusive, you know. And I'm in a position where I didn't want to touch her. That makes sense. I didn't want to pick her up and throw her out the door. And she made a comment to me about if I call the police on her, I said I'm going to call the police. If I call the police on her, she's going to tell them that she's my girlfriend. She jumped in my bed and she told them I'm going to insult her. So this is something where it was a really frightening scenario for me. But because I've been through this in the past and now I understand how things work and how you gather things, I recorded the whole incident, right? There'll come a point I just said, I need to record this because I got in trouble for this in the past. And it's a very difficult scenario to get out of, right? Domestic violence. And it's an emotional entanglement and things get said and reaction gets done, right? And it can lead you down the wrong path. So before, when I took things in my own hands, I decided what got me in trouble before is I never had a footprint. So, I thought, okay, I need to record this, at least if it's down, I can then take it from there. So we recorded it. And it was finally, once it was confessed to her, I've recorded everything. The person finally left after they smashed my car window and went about it. And I debated whether I wanted to do something about that because I only taped it just to protect myself. But the more I thought about it, the more I was, pondering it and looking at this video, I thought I need to release it in some way. And I started to do a little read up on it. And the figures for men being domestic violence, there's no law. You know, like the mayor's office, for example, has made it a high priority. But it's not women, it's woman-led. There's nothing for a man. If a man reports it, there's nothing for him. So I decided that, let me gather evidence, put it all together, and see how it works. Called it Home Alone. And yeah, so it's quite rough. You see me go through the whole process of what happened to me that night. And if I had done that to a woman, I'd be in jail now. Would you agree?
Yeah.
If I went to someone's house and refused to leave.
She was a nutter, like, complete nutter. But you were saying when the police came as well, just to kind of show the paradoxical situation, what did the police say to you when they came? They said that you were in your rights.
Oh, you're really in your title. Well, yeah, I wanted to get a move. Houses said I can't get moved unless I report it. I reported it. So I waited again, but no one knew the video. So when I told the police, listen, man, this is what happened, I gave me a crime number. They came and knocked my door that day. So tell us what happened. So first of all, they said, it's my fault because I left my back gate open. What are you talking about with my back gate open? He goes, anyway, you're in your right. You could have just picked her up and threw her out the door if you wanted to. No one could have done nothing. Pick her up and throw her out of the room. I said, yeah. And then what happens is she makes an allegation against me. I get nicked, right? He went. So I said, what? That doesn't make sense. You're telling me to do something knowing it could get me in trouble. I go, so what's it look like? I've kicked her, and she was white, by the way. A white woman, black guy kicks out a white woman out the door at 2 o'clock in the morning. And she makes an allegation against me. I'm finished, mate. But he didn't know I had the film. So this whole thing, if you look at the film, it says at the end of it, I've made this film. I'm now going to go and do what I'm supposed to do. Let me see if they're going to protect me. And not one person did. Not one.
So basically, she said on camera that she was going to make a false allegation against you if you called the police.
Yeah.
Bottom line, like, yeah.
Simple as that.
Nasty, yeah.
So what made it, mate, she said, this is what women do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
That statement.
I'm going to have victims of domestic violence on my podcast in the coming months, including, like, the woman I have lined up is a woman who's experienced a number of years, and I'll be filling people more in the future. But it's important that, as you said, it's not just women who are the victims of domestic violence, and that was an example. That was coercive control in a certain way, like, you know what I mean, what she just did to you, you know, blackmail as well, to be fair. But
it was blackmail. It's malicious, and if you look at the domestic laws or harassment laws, they don't cover blackmail. What they cover is race law. So if this racial hate was in there, they would have come and got me. That's it. And I was like, come on, man, you can't be just used. And I think before we move off with this, my aim is like I say, I have been involved with domestic violence, seeing it, being part of it, and trying to reduce it. But it's one of the things we're looking at is this whole idea of documenting the scenario that you're going through, right? So I work with ex-offenders now, and if they have any domestic violence or any issue, they phone me so that we can log it for them. And then we put a plan in place and say, right, if this person contacts you again, you need to tell them they need to contact us, right? So that when you two get back together, we'll make a recommendation, do some mediation, go and get some help or thingy. That way, you can show that you've taken responsible steps outside authoritative lines. Because we go the other route, then the other route is woman. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but it's not openly that said. So that's where that video was really important to home in the importance of having something where the male can go to that's non-authoritative, that can address this issue and become part of the nationwide issue. And I think if we can do that, and I think we'll actually tackle domestic violence much easier, like you're just saying there, because there's two sides to the story. How can we make sure that, like you're saying, I shouldn't be put under blackmail in my own home.
In your own house, like, especially as someone who's not even welcome in the house. Is there anything else you'd like to promote, Michael, or anything else you want to cover?
Well, apart from, like I'm saying, if anybody wants to get involved with any projects we're doing, please go to my website. We've got stuff up there, some great projects. Currently, we're doing a project called Going Equipped, which is going for the ex-offenders.
I'm sure it's not a play on words. It's not a double meaning.
And the funny thing is, it's like when I came out in 2005, which was my last prison sentence, I wrote a poem in there called Unlock, right? Unlock the mind, unlock the soul, unlock the heart, unlock the vision, street, the path. And so that was and then all my projects followed after that for about 3 or 4 years. So I had Unlock, Canteen, and there was another one, right? Association. And so we're doing Portaloo, which is all about installing Facebook. I'm running these into people's houses. That's all good for people in isolation. It's got some sponsors on board for that. It's been good. Poetry's happening, so I've got an album coming out soon. But anybody who wants to get involved, best thing to do, just go to my the website www.bootedandrooted or info@bootedandrooted.com. And then we could take it from there. I'm open this year. This year is my final year of sort of like saying, well, not my final year, but it's going to be my year where I'm saying I'm really going for it this year. I'm not going to let nothing hold me back. I'm even going to run for council again. We'll see. You know, I did as well. I was going to set up my own party, political party. Yeah, it's called SIP. Take a sip, and it's SIP stands for Community Interest Party, community led. And if my only job to do that, we don't go for big elections. We just go for council parish elections, and we just want to get people on the council really under an independent body. And what we're telling everybody is when they say, "What's your policy?" My policy is whatever the strategies of that council, we're here to help them deliver it. End of.
And you have experience in politics. You have experience going for an election before, haven't you? So you have that to call on.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I did the general election, which was really fantastic, being in the count room, and I got third. And then
podium finish.
And then they said, "I'll come back again and do another election." And I came second, beat the Tories, and beat everybody apart from Labour because it's a Labour stronghold. So I kind of like push my weight that way now. They call me like they call me like the people's councillor. So you know, I do the council work. I just don't do it for the council. If that makes sense. They don't pay me. So I think that sometimes I was going to refuse it because I feel if I'm brought into a councillor under their banner, I've got to follow their rules. Whereas if I go under my own banner, I can actually enforce the rules on them to make sure they do their job. You know, so that for me is a much more fanciful route for me to take. So yeah, we'll just see where it's going. I keep making these plans, but the main key is I stick to restorative justice, I stick to my poetry, I stick with that, and then let the rest, the dice roll and see what comes up.
And let the Guinness flow.
Let the Guinness flow. Yeah.
And this conversation has flowed absolutely brilliantly this evening, Michael. You know, you've been an absolute gent. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to I'm looking forward to an ongoing relationship, brother. You know?
Yeah. Cheers, man. And as a Liverpool fan, I'm happy to help you get to Anfield as well. If there's ever a match you want to go and see.
Oh, mate, I've got to. Oh,
I'll look after you. I'll look after you. I'll help you get a ticket. I'll have to get a ticket, all right?
Because I'm not. They keep telling me I've got to go in the cop and sing with them, brother. I've got to do that. Still.
Before we finish off, Michael, we're going to do a song about your home place called Brixton Still, which is a very catchy one as well. So hope you enjoy it.
So it goes. Fire burns, heart still beats, heart still fights with no fear still, heart grows, carries on still, for Brixton still is Brixton still, where the rivers flow with the fallen blood, and fire still burns in my neighborhoods cause the maps mark battle of the streets where the fire still burns and the heart still beats. Brixton still is Brixton still. Brixton still is Brixton still. Brixton still is Brixton still, where the fire still burns and the heart still beats. People talk in the same old way. People still talk about the good old days. People still talk, stay still. For Brixton still is Brixton still, where the rivers flow with the fallen blood and the fire still burns in my neighborhoods cause the maps mark battle of the streets where the fire still burns and the heart still beats. Brixton still is Brixton still. Brixton still is Brixton still. Brixton still is Brixton, where the fire still burns and the heart still beats. I love the fact that Brixton could suddenly explode. For Brixton is the only town that's always been that bold. We have the edge. It's the open, hidden side. For Brixton has learnt to grow from the cinders of the fires, amongst the norm, amongst the feel, amongst the hope of my community. I love Brixton. The North Sea, blue sky, summer haze, fire burns, heart still beats, heart still fights with no fear still, heart still grows and it carries on still. For Brixton still is Brixton still.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on this evening, Michael. I wish you every success in the future.
Thank you.
I wish success with your poetry, with the music, with your political career. It'd be great to keep in touch with you. Okay, and I'm sure at some stage in the future you might drop by the fireside again for some more chat.
Yeah, I would love to, brother. I would love to. Thank you very much for having me by the fireside. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. And this is the first time, I think you're the first that's allowed me to talk and put my poetry in place, right? Because normally I don't get that opportunity. We have a stick around the riots, but today I really enjoyed reciting, putting my, because it makes more sense when you hear the poetry connected to where it's coming from in story, right? And
exactly.
So it's not like it's a poem you just pick out. No, it's a reason, just like you did with the Pogues. That to me, that's why I love that poem, because it's more than just a poem, right? It's
exactly.
So
yeah.
Today was that for me. Today's podcast is something that, yeah, that is what I want. If I'm going to do a podcast, and I've got to do an event next week. Then what do you want to do? You can come in and just talk to some. No, if I'm coming, it's going to be like I'm going to do poetry, everything that goes in one. Otherwise, it's off balance for me. I won't be able to do it. But so thank you very much for that, pal. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
really
I'm going to put the link to your website in the video description, Michael. Booted and Rooted. I'm going to put the link to your own YouTube channel. You see Michael's videos.
Enjoyed being on your show today. Really, almost like it was like being in the front room by the fire, by the radiator, in my nice little chair. Anything was missing, me cardigan and me blanket, but it's been fantastic, brother. Really appreciate it. And I wish you luck with your podcast and growth. It's been a good Saturday. You started off my weekend of things that's going to be happening next couple of days. So this is the beginning of it. You've set the foundation of what's to come as well. So I hope you've set a hard task for people to follow, brother. You know, so they've got their work cut out. I think when they get quality like this out of me, man. I'm telling you.
If you're watching here on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and click the notifications bell so you don't miss any future videos. If you're listening audio only on Spotify or Podbean, please click follow, and please check out my vlogging channel, Pitch Spotting with Podrick. Loads of exciting vlogs to come. The Celtic Rangers one has gone down very well so far, and I'll put the link for that in as well. So thanks again to everyone for tuning in. Thanks again to you, Michael, for coming on. We'll see you next time on the Parallel Padre podcast. Good night. God bless.
Good night. Good night, mate. And cheers.